The return of 2008 case matters and their introduction into the recent Chicago trial has since remained a questionable move by the government prosecutors, who demonstrated that they were ready to break the law as many times as they needed to in order to send R. Kelly to prison for the rest of his life. By returning accusers such as Rashonda Landfair and Lisa Van Allen to the courtroom to get yet another shot at incriminating the R&B king on charges that were dropped 15 years ago, the government attempted to disqualify the 2008 trial court verdict where R. Kelly was duly acquitted after the judge who, looking beneath the surface of things, realized the government witnesses were lying on him. The 2008 trial came with a number of issues which quickly disqualified the accusers' claims. First, the so-called victim had made it clear under oath that it wasn't her on the said video evidence, and her parents too agreed with her. The family, which was uninterested in the case, also made sure to be out of town and on holiday on court hearing days and did not turn up to testify. Meanwhile, the only witness, Lisa Van Allen, who insisted on testifying against R. Kelly, was also lying about her own age, and she carried on with this lie until only a few months ago when she was busted while trying to introduce the same lying spirit into the Chicago case process. Nevertheless, the government, which was desperate to have R. Kelly incriminated with alleged obstruction of justice charges, ignored her crime of perjury, and brought her to the stand to tell even more lies. It turns out the main reason why the government went as far as employing non-credible witnesses such as Van Allen for this job was an attempt to try and implicate some of the staff Kelly worked with, which would in turn justify a sort of enterprise in their New York RICO allegations. The great news, however, is that government failed to achieve this when the two co-accused along with R. Kelly were found not guilty of any such obstructions and were acquitted. This quickly reduced the Chicago trial into a confession by government for its lying witnesses, considering it is her involvement in this that burst the bubble and exposed everything about her previous deceitful reputation. Why the government chose to override the 2008 trial verdict, which was made by the Honorable Court with no appeal whatsoever, is still unexplained. The only time a defendant is retried for the same charges is after a successful appeal by the plaintiff. And this decision is only granted if there is proof of significant error of law, a verdict going against the weight of the evidence, irregularity in court proceedings, jury and prosecutorial misconduct, or newly discovered evidence. With nothing of the sort, the move to bring back charges and accusers from the 2008 case was an illegal move by government, completely orphaned by law, and a move that disregards the sovereignty of the U.S. Justice Department. Having observed the way the government was quick to throw the 2008 trial verdict out the window so they could bring back all the past charges with no due process followed, many have been demanding to understand, just when does a court verdict become final? It's not in order that the government, which is supposed to be the first keeper of the law before any other departments, can choose which verdict they respect or disregard as they please, going as far as causing retrials whenever they please without winning an appeal as a prerequisite. The move to bring back matters that were closed off by the Honorable Judge back in 2008 is a total act of impunity, and shows how determined the government was to prejudice R. Kelly at whatever cost possible, even if it meant abusing the U.S. court system. The case against R. Kelly has therefore served to show the world what the U.S. government is truly about, and how ready they are to violate the laws of this country for as long as it's in favor of their selfish interests, sometimes violating the basic rights of select individuals they unfairly target. If the decision of court meant anything to government, they would have respected the 2008 verdict that saw R. Kelly acquitted on the same charges they chose to reimpose on him at the Chicago trial, and we would probably not be having this conversation today. Another violation the government made in their attempt to impeach the R&B king was ignoring the existing statutes of limitations, which are intended to limit the time within which accusers may file charges against the accused. Again, with impunity, the government felt they had the right to hold R. Kelly accountable for alleged crimes said to have taken place decades ago, and for these found him guilty like they had sufficient evidence, which was never the case. Cases to do with his alleged involvement with singer Aaliyah, for example, for which she is not around to make her case known, were brought back. Clearly, the government had nothing to accuse R. Kelly for, and resorted to these illegal approaches to the task to fill the gap left by the total lack of evidence on the new allegations. If the government had focused on the RICO and Mann Act violation claims, they were never going to succeed in taking down the R&B king, for they lacked evidence to back up these claims. Desperate for charges, therefore, They needed everything they could think of and decided to venture backwards into his much older legal battles from over a decade and a half back. It is believed that the Chicago judge was a little uninterested in the government case, citing these rather unfair moves by the government on the R&B king, and this could be the reason he decided none of the accusers in Chicago would be receiving any further restitutions than the money they had already extorted from R. Kelly during the days they spent acting like they loved him. Any judge except compromised Ann Donnelly would have seen through this injustice easily and done even better than Leinenweber did. There was, however, no reason to issue an additional 20-year sentence, even if this was to be concurrent with the New York 30 years. The right thing to do was to acquit R. Kelly on all charges with reference to the statutes of limitations and acts of perjury by the various non-truthful witnesses, which are criminal and punishable by law. Anyone who has taken time to understand the nitty-gritty behind the Chicago charges and subsequent trial cannot help but wonder why it was held in the first place. The only thing we got to learn from it was how much of liars the government witnesses were, and the trial appeared like it was just another opportunity for the accusers to come out and confess their lies from as far back as 2008 without adding any new value to the old case. It's possible that if the Chicago charges had been mushed up with the New York trial, we wouldn't have seen the contest Jennifer Bonjean and the lawyers of co-accused Daryl McDavid managed to put up, thanks to the greedy government who wanted more and more, making the wrong choice of splitting the case into two separate trials, and like that allowing Jennifer Bonjean an entry point to mitigate the situation. The fact that the two separate trials allowed for a male judge to get on board and expose the bias exercised by female judge Ann Donnelly was also a good thing for the case. I still have the feeling that Judge Harry Leinenweber was able to feel R. Kelly's pain looking at the open injustice that was exercised by the government in New York Court of Brooklyn, and that this could be the reason he ordered no restitutions for the various untruthful accusers, and also remembered to leave a safety window for self-redemption when he offered the possibility of an early release. He definitely felt the defendant's plight, but considering how politicized the matter was, an acquittal became a hard ask from him. Thank you for watching today's video, a production of LFN Media, giving you another perspective of issues at hand. We make it our business to keep you updated with the truth amidst the cloud of lies the media wants you to believe. It is therefore important to subscribe to this channel, hit the bell icon and allow all notifications so that you don't miss out whenever we publish a new video.